Welcome back to another video on Gearsaw Studios, and today I'm going to be showing you how to build yourself the Home Alone house. That way you have a nice iconic building for any festive areas. And if you're watching this the day it's uploaded, this is the beginning of the 12 days of Gearsaw, where every other day, formerly daily, I will be uploading another Christmas or winter related tutorial. So enjoy that. And without further ado, let's investigate how we'd go about building this. And for the palette, we're going to be using bricks and dark oak. Of course, you can already see I've built part of this in order to get an idea of what your floor plan should look like. You can see the nice dark oak trapdoors to act as shutters. And then the interior, sadly, could not be fully replicated. One, because the movie was surprisingly not even recorded in the house, only based on that house. And two, a lack of proper imaging cannot get the back completely finished. Of course, you could watch the movie repeatedly in order to figure everything out, but even then, it might not even fit. So I'd recommend going with this design here, even if it's not 100% accurate to the movie. And then, for what we'll be doing with the roof, deep slate tiles, and then we'll line that with smooth quartz. The landscape will be done with birch because it's immune to the biome tint, and spruce is not what kind of leaves they have. And then 31 times 19 area will be the main building. The little protrusions are a little bit smaller, rounding up to only about 8 blocks long and about 13 or so wide. Of course, you can pause the video in order to figure it out completely, and it's 13 blocks. So 8 by 13s on either side, and then place the windows as shown here. Of course, you can see some of them have shutters and some don't. Make sure to keep this in mind since the other ones don't have shutters and will look awkward if you include them erroneously. Of course, you can include them anyways if you think they're too bare. Now we have ourselves all the windows. You can see only some of them have shutters, and those are the ones that are in the middle. The ones on the sides do not actually have shutters, strangely enough, but aside from that, due to our lack of interior, we do not need to make the floor transitions as thick, because here's the thing, if we only have a couple facade rooms and not a coherent structure, then we can make the windows closer together on the outside, using deep slate tiles for this. Here's the thing, if we were to make a conventional building, it would have to look something like this. You'd have to have the floor there, and then you'd have to have the floor again, which is already 2 blocks, making this already a little thick. And then you need another 2 blocks before you can add the next couple of windows. And you can see how this could spiral out of hand kind of quick. Because once you add the windows back, and then place the blocks on top, which these would actually be covered, still you'd end up with a strangely flat structure. But since we do not have an interior, then we only have to worry about the exterior, which means we can shrink this heavily and only have 2 blocks in between the structures. What I'm getting at here is copy the first area onto the second area while removing the entrance, since we have nothing else to add due to the lack of interior. With the first floor more or less copied from the second floor, we now have ourselves a pretty basic thing that we can use for the Home Alone house. One thing you'll notice is some of the walls will have to be facades. Here I have encased this area in black concrete, which makes it look like the room simply doesn't have any light on. And you can see this effect is achieved by having some of the black concrete 1 block away from the window, since if you place it connecting to the window, of course, that's going to be visible from the outside, and nobody wants that. So of course, any room you do not want to do an interior for, do that too. If you do want an interior for a room, simply start placing some birch planks, and this doesn't work as well if you followed this tutorial for this part right here, since you'll have to use slabs, which means a lot of in-room decoration isn't really possible, which means If you want to only have part of an interior enough to make it appear full from the outside, while not having to make the actual McAllister home, then what you should do is alternate between facade and black. That way you can have full rooms on the first floor or second floor, and the other floor is simply empty. For the entrance, you could build the foyer, since that is possible. It more gets hairy when you go and try incorporating wallpapers or go to the second floor. For this tutorial, I'm going to be making a facade room that immediately goes into a pit. That way, you can have an entrance that doesn't lead to anywhere, while still keeping the illusion up. For our filler rooms, you can see we have it completely out of bricks. Of course, you can plaster some concrete over the walls to get wallpaper, but that is kind of why we can't have the house here. Simply because wallpaper doesn't quite fit and we'll run out of space way too quick. And you can see we have some paintings, a chair, table, bookshelf, and other things. Then do the midnight test. Can you see inside the room during midnight? If yes, then you have enough lighting. For the other areas, turning it to day now, or wrong key, you can see on the upper parts we have black concrete. Looks like the lights are off and you can't see in, which is exactly what we want. And simple. Place this a half the time and the other half place black boxes. And then once all that is done, place a ceiling over it, make sure there's no massive unlit areas, and then do your entrance. If you have a proper door, make some room. You can connect it up to other rooms, and if you really want to, you can make a completely different interior. Same exterior, different interior, best of both worlds. Although, that might be a little annoying to do, especially since you might run out of space yet again. With some black concrete and random rooms later, we now have a facade interior. From the inside, it's a bunch of darkness and rooms piled together. Of course, you can make a proper interior, but the idea is the fact that making the real Home Alone interior would be very time consuming, and not to mention, would involve a much larger house. Then, you can see I have a couple of random rooms using ultra frog lights to simulate lights or candles, and then we'll run into this issue where we have black concrete peeking through the floors due to spacing reasons. However, this can be solved by simply placing objects over the black concrete. That way you have yourself a reason to not see it. For the ceilings, line them all with brick stairs like this, that way you can't see the black concrete from above. Using these methods, you can have part of an interior without having to do the whole thing. That way, of course, you still have a functional house from the outside only. From here, what we want to do is start working on the roof. Get yourself some smooth quartz and its stair variant, and then go one block above the windows. And involve quite a bit of measuring, but roughly this should work. Since you can see it goes over the windows since the roof is very close to them in real life. And then from here we'll have deep slate tiles that go all the way to the top. For our next step, we will be working on the roof. I have already completed the majority of it, but in order to get an idea of what we're doing, we're going a couple blocks up with stairs from these linings that we built in the last segment. And you can see stair, 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 5 blocks up. Fill the plateau here with deep slate tiles. Then go a couple blocks higher on the middle part. This is 7 stairs worth. And then above this window here, between the final window and the door, place another window like this. A small structure that appears to be going into the attic. Of course, I'm not building the attic, which means more black concrete. And then, more plateauing. And to get an idea of how we're supposed to merge this, I've left this part unfinished. You can see how I go increasingly further in, but I remove one from one side, add one to the other, which means 4, 4, 4, 4. If you repeat that, then the roofs will perfectly align. and then you'll have yourself the Home Alone house's roof, which means it will almost be complete. Also, make sure that you include these things on both sides, since they are present on both sides. Later on, we'll be building the chimney, and then the doorway, the landscaping, and we'll be done. With some basic landscaping done with tuff, you can finish off the front of the building. And you can see, the reason why we have tuff is because there's small stone bricks, and we don't exactly have a very close block for that because stone bricks are too refined, which means tuff it is. Make sure you have a couple steps, perhaps cover a couple of them in ice, although that's optional, and then do some landscaping. Remember, it's mostly bushes, and between these two windows, there is one tall bush. Essentially, birch leaves, and then keep it consistent around with that. And then for the front, there is some variance between the time periods, so you can either have little lanterns like this, you can have an armor stand with iron armor. Several things work out there. For your final changes, 1. Include a small sign terracotta path if you have anywhere to go. Of course, I don't really want to remove this tree. I kinda like it, so this is as far as it goes. And then, small walls here. Although these are not necessarily part of the actual house, still, I prefer them. And then, make sure all terraforming looks decent. And although the back looks pretty bare, still, it's realistic to the build excluding the small kitchen area because of a lack of photos. Which means this build is complete. You can see we have ourselves some good landscaping that isn't affected by the biome, some good usage of tuff, moss, and some fake rooms, so that way this doesn't look like a complete sham. It's actually something that looks like a real house. And on the inside, of course, a little slippery, and this would have worked a lot better if Kevin really wanted to get rid of the robbers. Just send them to the back rooms. But anyways, I'd recommend building it if you need a neighborhood filled out, since it's an iconic house, and it doesn't even need to be completely accurate. As long as you have the general shape, it can be whatever you want. So it can fit into any build, even if it's not Christmas themed. And with that, it's the end of today's video. If you enjoyed this video, remember, please like and subscribe, it really helps me out. And if you're watching this the day of release, stay tuned because in 2 days I will be uploading another video and will be continuing to do so until the 24th. Either way, enjoy the rest of your day. Gearsaw out.